Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, today we will be covering the 6th juz, and in this juz we go through Surah Ma'idah. So one of the central themes of Surah Ma'idah is that the laws of the Sharia must be revered and upheld at all times. So I've said this time and again that when it comes to Sharia and the laws of Sharia, they can't take a backseat. We have to give priority to the Sharia. By revering and upholding the Sharia, this is giving priority to the Sharia. So in explaining this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala highlights the following injunctions: that hunting is prohibited after entering into the ihram for Hajj. Number 2, only halal animals may be consumed when they are slaughtered in the name of Allah. So just going into this a little bit, the default in all animals is that they are haram. So al-asl fil luhum al-hurma, that the default in all meat is that it is haram, until and unless that meat is slaughtered correctly, that animal is slaughtered correctly in the name of Allah, after which that animal becomes halal. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that only halal animals may be consumed when they are slaughtered in Allah's name. Carrion is haram, as is the flesh of swine, pigs, those animals that have been slaughtered in the name of any being besides Allah, which was something that the Arabs of in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the people of Mecca, it was very common. They would slaughter in the names of their idols. Any name besides Allah, this animal too will be considered as haram. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also explains that the animals that have been throttled, choked to death, that animal too will be impermissible for consumption. Animals that are beaten to death, those animals that fell to their deaths, those killed by collision, and those that died after being attacked by wild beasts. So when I was in Michigan, a friend of mine, he would go up north for hunting, and so when you go for hunting, you have to sit in your blind up in a tree, and he had shot a deer. So now obviously it's night, and it's difficult to really track the deer at night. So he's like, okay, when it becomes a little bit lighter, I'm going to track it, using the blood trail. So he goes the next day, tracks it, and finally he comes across the deer, and it's near some water. There's a flowing stream, and the deer is just right there in the stream. So now he's thinking that, what should I do? So he gives me a call, and he's like, this is what happened. I shot this deer last night, and now I don't know how it died. Did it die by drowning? I mean, it was injured and then it fell into this river. And not only that, but it seems like the back part of the animal has been eaten by some wild animals. So I'm like, look, there's no way to know that your animal did do your arrow did do the job and kill that animal, because it's very likely that this animal, yes, it was injured, it was shot, and because of this, it may have fallen into this stream, and it's possible that it could have drowned, or there's a high likelihood of another animal coming and eating a portion of it, and it just hemorrhaged and it just bled to death as a result of that. So in this case, it would be better that you don't consume that animal, because we don't know how exactly did it die. Did it die by you shooting an arrow through it? Yes, it did puncture the major organs and stuff, but it was at least a good 400-500 meters away from where he shot it and where he found it. So anyway, long story short, he never, he just took the animal and he buried it, so that so it doesn't harm the wildlife, and it doesn't it doesn't become infected or it doesn't affect its surroundings. So continuing on, in this surah Ma'idah, Allah tells man that he should never attempt to foretell the future by means of omens and other means of divining, because these are the deeds that are the practice of sinners, engaging in horoscopes and all that stuff. This is not something that the Sharia really sanctions. A lot of people, they put a lot of stock into reading horoscopes, and I think the latest thing that I've heard is that there's a star, the Thuraya star, that when it appears, then all of these diseases and this pandemic is going to be removed. There is a hadith to that effect, but the hadith is severely impugned. The hadith is severely impugned. The scholars, the scholars of hadith, they have criticized the hadith from the perspective of its narrators. Anyway, continuing on. All good and evil, as Muslims, we believe that it is from Allah Azza wa Jalla. It is in the control of Allah. Allah tells the Muslims that they should have firm faith in their deen of Islam, which Allah has perfected. So we should be satisfied with Islam and what Islam has to offer. And by doing this, it makes us appreciate the enormous bounties that Allah has bestowed upon us. When we look at Islam and we see how pure and natural Islam is. It's a very natural religion. It's not something that can't be followed. It's not something that occupies our entire culture. This is not why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us Islam, that it takes away our culture, it takes away the way we live, and it replaces it completely. Islam is a very natural thing, and to follow Islam, this is the fitrah. This is the natural disposition of all human beings, just to follow Islam, acknowledge the oneness of Allah Azza wa Jal. And Allah mentions in the Quran, Inna Dina Indallahi al-Islam, that the deen of Allah has always been Islam. This has always been the case, that the deen of Allah has always been Islam. So this faith is perfect, and to follow this faith is perfection. So as Muslims, we need to uphold the sanctity of Islam's injunctions and critically distinguish between the lawful and unlawful. So we have to look at everything with the lens of Islam. That, is this lawful for me to do, or is this unlawful? Muslims are also enjoined. In this juz, we will find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the Muslims and says that they are enjoined to abstain from evil and at the same time be grateful. And again, this is a common theme, that we need to be grateful of the blessings of Allah Azza wa Jal. And sometimes these difficulties come so that we realize the blessings of Allah, what we have. Now more than anything, we realize how much of a blessing it is to come to the masjid, how much of a blessing it is for the masjids to be open for us. So we realize a ni'mah, we realize a blessing once that blessing, for whatever reason, is removed from us. So Surah Ma'idah, it contains laws that pertain to man's religious, civil, social, political life. And the surah contains detailed guidance about etiquette of the Hajj journey, revering the beacons of deen. What is the verse? The verse escapes me right now. But the sha'air of Islam, the beacons of deen, revering the beacons of deen. So revering anything that is associated with Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this surah, in Surah Ma'idah, also discusses the parameters of halal and haram, marriage and interaction with the Ahlul Kitab, the Jewish folk and the Christians, the laws of wudu, ghusl and tayammum, dealing with rebellion, punishment for robbery and theft, the prohibition of liquor and gambling, the kafara, atonement for breaking vows, the detailed laws concerning testimony and giving testimony. There's an entire section in the books of jurisprudence on issuing and giving testimony. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordains that the hand of the male or female thief is to be cut off. So there's no distinction between the two genders. The Muslims are also warned against taking the Jews and Christians as friends. I've mentioned this in my previous summarizations, that friendship over here means not a deep friendship where they become an impediment to our practicing the faith. Allah makes it clear that the belief in the Trinity, this constitutes kufr, and that enmity and hatred have been entrenched into the hearts of the kuffar till Qiyamah. And this is, we see this today where non-Muslims throughout the world, they despise anything that is remotely Islamic. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them hidayat, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to better reflect the teachings of Islam. Allah entreats Rasulullah not to be grieved about the disbelief of the kuffar because he is not responsible for them. Surah Ma'idah also states that Jannah is forbidden for the mushrikeen and that oppressors will have none to aid them against Allah. Allah says that those people of the past who adhere to the divine religions of their time, they will attain salvation if they firmly believed in Allah and in the day of Qiyamah. So this inshallah completes the summarization of the 6th juz. Tomorrow I will start the 7th. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us tawfiq and understanding. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.